Hi everyone, my name is Natalie. Today I wanted to do my last recommendations video in preparation for SpringAThon. So I'm sure you've all heard me say this before, but the SpringAThon is a readathon that I'm hosting with Emma from A Couple Books in the first 2 weeks of May. So from the 4th to the 17th of May, there is the booktube thing for the readathon. There's also a Twitter. Basically you are encouraged to read nature writing. It could be both fiction and non-fiction. And there's also an Instagram challenge to go alongside the readathon duration, which I'm doing with Juliana from the Blank Garden. So I will link all of the information you need about the readathon below. We'd be happy to have you join us. If you are making TBRs or anything like that, please use the hashtag SpringAthon so that we can find your things. I know that Emma has created a playlist on YouTube, so you can find all of the videos related to the SpringAthon, so I will link that below as well. But today I wanted to do a travel nonfiction recommendations video. So I've made a nature memoir recommendations video and a fiction nature writing video as well. But today I wanted to specifically go over the travel prompt. Even if you don't read it for SpringAthon, I would recommend these books generally. So the first book is the one that got me thinking about this, making this video in the first place. That is Wind, Sand and Stars by Antoine de Saint-Exupery. This is the author of The Little Prince, which is one of my favorite books. He talks about his experience as an aviator and being so close to nature and to weather and the atmosphere, to have so few barriers, especially before technology was so prevalent in the plains themselves. He talks about crashing in the middle of the desert and being so desperate for water. There's a part of the book that he talks about water specifically that I shared that quote in on my Instagram. I just think that he is a fantastic writer, and I feel like he's really introspective. Even though he is philosophical and introspective, he's still, I feel like all of his insights is still grounded in his own experience, so that I could definitely relate to it and appreciate his way of looking at things. The next one is a classic in the genre, that is Into Thin Air by Krakauer. This is a book all about a Mount Everest climb, and it's about a particular year of climbing that was kind of disastrous. A lot of people died in the process of doing this climb. He combines his personal experience of doing the mountain climbing and also of being in the middle of this sort of crisis in the team itself. I feel like this is probably one of the most engaging nonfiction books I've ever read. Even though it is a chunker, it doesn't feel like it. It is so strong in the narrative that you just feel completely immersed in it immediately. I feel like if you are someone who likes adventure stories, this is a perfect book to pick up. And then the next one is partly travel, partly political nonfiction, and that is Dear Leader by Jang, Jin-Sung, and this is a book about a North Korean who escaped to South Korea. There were some circumstances around his job that made his continual living there very dangerous, so he had to escape to South Korea for his own safety. And so he talks about the actual traveling from North Korea over the border and into South Korea, but also talks about some of his political insight into the system being so of such high authority, or not authority, but of such high status in the state. And some of his insights from being so close to the leaders and their kind of propaganda and rhetoric, as well as talking about his own personal experience of this journey. I think this is one of the best, again, one of the best nonfictions I've ever read, and I feel like it is a significant book if you are wanting to learn more about North Korea, but even just the travel aspect of it is in itself a really compelling story. The next one I have is a completely different story. That is The Last Wilderness, A Journey into Silence by Neil Ansell. This is a memoir of the author traveling the same kind of forest. I can't remember exactly the location of it. Neil Ansell first visited the rough bounds in the northwest highlands of Scotland. So he returns to the same piece of nature over and over again, and you get to see his changing experience of the same landscape. And one of the things that makes this quite unique is the fact that he's becoming deaf. So he's losing his hearing, and he also talks about the way that that is changing his experience. I think one of the things I really loved about this book is that it captures some of the tranquility you can find in putting one foot in front of the other. The constant movement being a kind of meditation. So it is kind of about the love of travel and the kind of benefits that you can get in physically moving your body. So a fantastic book, especially if you like nature writing. So this is more on the nature writing side of things, although of course the other ones kind of relate to that as well. The next one I have is Romantic Outlaws by Charlotte Gordon. So this one may not seem like a travel book, and it isn't really primarily. It is a biography, a dual biography of Mary Shelley and Mary Wollstonecraft. Mary Wollstonecraft was Mary Shelley's mother, and this book is looking at both of their lives. The reason I thought of this as a potential for travel nonfiction is because both women did a lot of traveling. Both of them actually wrote travelogues. So I know that at least Mary Wollstonecraft traveled in Sweden and some other Nordic countries, I think. And I know for sure that Mary Shelley traveled a lot in Italy, among other places. And so both of them chronicle some of that experience. So if you're looking for classic travel writing, those might be worth looking into. This biography also captures a lot of that. And I think it's especially interesting because of the historical lens, seeing these countries through the late 18th century and beginning of the 19th century. But yeah, I love this biography. I will use any excuse to recommend it again. If you're looking for a book that is travel related but not specifically so, then this might be a good option. I don't think you need to have any previous familiarity with either woman. It is such a good biography that I think you will be interested in reading about them afterwards, I think. Personally, that is my experience anyway. The next one I have is Grand Obsession by Perri Knize. Through wanting to find the perfect piano instrument, she goes on a journey to learn more about the instrument itself. And so she is traveling all over the US, especially, I think, and she also goes to Germany, if I'm not mistaken, to learn about various parts of the creation of a piano instrument. So she talks to people working on the wood, the trees themselves and the wood, and the processing of those, the tuning of the instrument, all kinds of people involved in creating a piano, a finished product. And so she's both going on a physical journey through various parts of the world in talking to these people, usually experts in their niche fields, and sort of a psychological journey as well through her obsession with finding the right sound. I just love this book, and I think it's just a fantastic music nonfiction that combines the travel thing quite centrally because of the form of her quest. The next one is In Other Words by Jhumpa Lahiri. So this is a book about Jhumpa Lahiri moving to Italy and learning Italian. So she wrote this book in Italian and has been translated by Anne Goldstein. She talks about the way that you view and experience a country differently through being able to use their language, sort of activating certain aspects of the experience. I think if you are someone who is trying to learn a language, then this might be a perfect way to sort of combine the travel aspect of her moving to Italy and learning the language, the process of that, in both the good and the bad. The last one I wanted to recommend specifically for this video is They Call Us Enemy by George Takei, and this is a graphic memoir. One way to get the travel prompt would be to read an immigrant story, because of course that means that there has been some kind of traveling involved and that transition from one country to another. So this book is George Takei talking about the experience that he has as a second-generation immigrant and a Japanese American, especially during the Second World War, and his family being put into I'm not sure if it's the concentration camps is the correct term, but forcefully put into Japanese American isolation, and he talks about that experience and the unfairness of that experience, especially as someone who identifies as an American, feeling betrayed by your own country, the country that you view as your home country, and the kind of conflictions about your identity. I would recommend it as a book that really both is a strong story and shows a lot of the important experiences of the Second World War that isn't necessarily as talked about in the grand scheme of World War II narratives, but also the way that it uses the illustration for the storytelling, I think really highlights the value in the comic form. So strongly recommend. Those are all of the books that I wanted to specifically talk about in this travel nonfiction recommendations video. Let me know if you've read any of these books and your thoughts about them, or if you have any recommendations for me. I'm always excited to hear those. I have been so happy to see all of the SpringAthon TBRs and things coming up on YouTube. I haven't been able to watch all of them yet. I'm planning to do some catch up during this weekend and just getting so excited for it next week. So I hope you are excited too and that you will be joining us. I hope you are doing well, and I will talk to you soon.